This is a story about standing your ground when someone tries to take what's yours, not with guns or threats, but with the quiet power of truth, patience, and the law. It's the kind of thing that happens more often than folks admit in quiet corners of America, where new subdivisions butt up against old family land, and one person's idea of community standards clashes hard with another's right to live free. My name is Tom Harlan. I've got 140 acres of rolling timber and pasture in rural northern Georgia, handed down from my granddad who bought it right after World War II. The place isn't fancy, no manicured lawns or three-car garages, but it's mine, paid off, and it's where I built something meaningful after 20 years in the Army Corps of Engineers. I call it the Resilience Retreat, a weekend spot for veterans and their families to fish, sit around a fire, talk if they want, or just breathe without anyone expecting them to be fixed. It was late summer, the second annual gathering. About a dozen of us, old squad mates, their wives and kids, were out by the pond. Sergeant Ray Coleman, who lost both legs in Kandahar but still ties the best flying knots I've ever seen, was showing my 11-year-old grandson Ethan how to cast. Specialist Lena Ramirez, once a combat medic, now ran horse therapy for kids with PTSD. She was laughing as she fed carrots to a couple of gentle quarter horses she'd trailered in. Then came the voice, sharp as a snap branch. This is private association property. You're in violation of Pine Ridge Estates bylaws, Section 7, unauthorized use of green space. You have 10 minutes to clear out before I call the sheriff for trespassing. She rolled up in a white golf cart, pastel blue polo shirt tucked into khakis, arms crossed like she owned the sunset. Her name was Diane Whitaker, president of the HOA next door. Pine Ridge Estates had sprung up 2 years earlier on what used to be open pasture to our east, 200 acres bulldozed flat, cookie-cutter houses with identical mailboxes, and a clubhouse that looked like a country club reject. Diane had driven half a mile past 3 no trespassing signs to reach us. I set my coffee down on the picnic table my dad built in the 70s. Ma'am, this isn't your green space. This is my farm. You've got the wrong side of the fence. She scoffed. I know exactly where the lines are. This whole area is designated open space for our residents' enjoyment, not some campground for transients. The word landed like a slap. Ray went still. Lena's smile faded. Even Ethan looked up, confused. I kept my voice level, the way my old CO taught me when the situation was about to turn hot. You've got 30 seconds to turn that cart around and leave, or I'll call the sheriff myself. She pulled out her phone, rhinestone case flashing. Already did. He's coming to handle you people. 20 minutes later, gravel crunched. Sheriff Harlan Tate, no relation, just a coincidence that always made folks smile, stepped out of his cruiser. Tall, gray-haired, face like weather barnwood. He know my dad, fished this pond with me as a kid. He took in the fire, the tents, the kids, then looked at Diane vibrating with righteous anger. Evening, Tom, he said. What's the trouble? Diane launched in. Illegal gathering, nuisance, trespassers, the works. Sheriff Tate listened, then turned to me. Your side. Same as always, Harlan. Family land since 47. She drove right past the signs to harass my guests. These are veterans and their families having a cookout. He nodded, checked his dash computer. County plat says Pine Ridge ends back at that ridge line. This is all Harlan property. You're the one trespassing, ma'am. Diane's face drained white. That can't be right. The developer said. Brochures and deeds aren't the same thing, Tate cut in. Tom asked you to leave. You didn't. So Tom, want to press charges. The air went thick. Diane stared, mouth working like a fish. I could have said yes, could have watched her get cited right there. But I saw the bigger picture. One ticket was a skirmish. I wanted the war won clean. No, I said, not tonight. I think Mrs. Whitaker just got her wires crossed about the neighborhood. I'm sure it won't happen again. She shook her head like a puppet, climbed into her cart, and sped off, tearing up grass in her hurry. A cheer went up around the fire. Ray raised his bottle. To property lines and good sense. But I knew better. People like Diane don't back down from humiliation. They double down. The quiet lasted a week, too quiet. Then the letters started again. Fines for my old Ford tractor being unsightly. Warnings about chainsaw noise after a storm. Demands I submit a landscaping plan for approval. Each one went into my growing file labeled HOA nonsense. Then came the knockout punch, a manila envelope taped to my gate. Final notice of lien intent. $8, $200 for unpaid fines and administrative fees. Signed by Diane Whitaker, President. It was pure fraud. An HOA can't lien land that's never been part of their association. But it was meant to scare someone who didn't know better. I sent it to my buddy Paul Grayson, former JAG officer now doing property law. His reply was quick. This is felony territory. Mail fraud, attempted extortion. We got her cold. But don't swing yet. Let's build the case right. We drafted a cease and desist to the whole board, delivered by process server. 10 days came and went. Silence. So I started building alliances. First, the Walkers, old dairy farmers to the west. Ed and Ruth Walker had been hit with complaints about cow smell and rooster crows. We swapped files over coffee at their kitchen table. She's trying to turn this whole valley into her personal backdrop, Ed said. We stand together now. Next, I found an insider. Colonel Frank Donovan, Air Force retired, lived 3 doors down from Diane. I'd spotted him at the edge of the crowd during the sheriff incident, nodding quietly. I called him from the Pine Ridge gate. He invited me over. Inside his house, aviation prints, medals, no frills. I've been waiting for someone to stand up, he said. Diane runs that board like a dictator. Most folks just want peace, but they're scared. You got an ally. Frank fed me intel. Diane was pushing to hire lawyers with HOA funds to deal with the hostile neighbor. The drone I'd seen? Her husband's hobby. Then came the sabotage. One morning, I found a straight line of dying pines along the fence. Lower branches brown and brittle, perfect herbicide spray job. An arborist confirmed, deliberate, high-concentration glyphosate. Damage in the tens of thousands, scars permanent even if the trees lived. That was it. No more defense. I installed pro-grade cameras, motion-triggered, night vision, covering every inch of the border. 2 nights later, 2:40 a.m., my phone lit up. Zone 3 alert. Grainy infrared, 2 figures. One with a backpack sprayer. The other holding a flashlight, gesturing hurry. Hood slipped. Diane's husband, Greg. Then she stepped in a frame, tracksuit glowing faintly, urging him on. They sprayed another stretch, then scurried back. I had them. Trespass. Vandalism. Conspiracy. On tape. But I didn't call the sheriff. One arrest was too small. I wanted the whole rotten system exposed. Paul and I built the package. Video, arborist report, fraud notice, harassment log, affidavits from the Walkers. Then we hit the real weak point, the HOA's directors and officers' insurance. The demand letter went to the insurer's claims VP, C-seat to the board. It laid out crimes committed under Diane's authority as president. Estimated damages over $60,000 plus punitives. Noted the board's prior notice via cease and desist and their inaction. Implied massive premium hikes or policy cancellation if unresolved. 2 days later, Frank called. Emergency meeting. Insurance is investigating. Diane tried to spin it. Didn't work. They're terrified. A week on, 2 suits from the insurer showed up at my barn. Adjuster named Reynolds, lawyer Ms. Harper. I walked them through it all, played the video twice. They toured the dead branches. Reynolds exhaled. This is bad. Malicious acts aren't covered. What do you want? Harper asked. 3 things. Full restitution, tree removal, treatment, replacement with mature natives. A permanent court injunction barring Diane and her husband from my land or contact, and her removal from the board. She's a liability. My cooperation on keeping the civil, not criminal, depends on it. They exchanged looks. We believe we can't agree. The insurer leaned hard. Board panicked. Property values, premiums, personal liability. Diane called an all-residents meeting to rally support, paint me as the bully. Frank tipped me off. Thursday night. We rolled up, me and my truck, Ed Walker behind, then Ray, Lena, and 5 more vets. Respectable clothes, no signs, no anger. Frank met us at the door. There with me. The room froze when we entered. Diane mid-sentence at the podium. I didn't take the stage. I stood in the aisle, file in hand. Good evening. I'm Tom Harlan. I own the land west of here. Mrs. Whitaker has told you on the problem. I'm here to tell you the truth. I went point by point. Fraudulent lien, trespass witnessed by the sheriff, poisoned trees, video evidence with the insurer. No yelling. Just facts. Ed spoke next, simple farmer voice, about years of harassment over his cows and rooster. Then I said, the insurance company has the video of Mrs. Whitaker and her husband on my land at night, destroying my trees. That's why they're threatening to drop coverage. Not because of me, because of her. The room exploded, not at me, at her. Shouts. Questions. Is this true? She used our dues? Diane shrieked. Lies? He's extorting us. But no one listened. She looked small, unhinged. Next morning, petition to remove her circulated. Signatures in hours. Board voted her out, censured her. 2 weeks later, settlement signed. Check for damages. Formal apology to me and the Walkers. Lifetime injunction. Diane gone from the board. A month on, I watched a moving truck at her house. She left quietly, tail between her legs. The new board, Ed's neighbor Jerry as interim president, was reasonable. No more nonsense. One crisp fall evening during another retreat, Jerry and his wife walked up with a homemade peach cobbler. For helping us take our community back, he said. I invited them to the fire. Kids roasted marshmallows. Ray told stories. Lena's horses grazed. Ethan taught a younger boy to cast. The boundary line stayed, but the wall of hate came down. My land was a sanctuary again, not a battleground. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the truth, spoken plainly, until the lies can't stand anymore. What do you think? Have you ever dealt with an overreaching neighbor, an HOA gone wild, or someone abusing power in a small community? Was it worth fighting back, or better to walk away? And where do you draw the line between standing up for yourself and letting things go too far into real harm or vengeance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Let's talk about fairness, boundaries, and what real justice looks like in everyday American life.